lot of interesting sessions, just as yesterday. And we'll begin with one session today. But before that, let me tell you that there's another session going on in Darbar Hall. It's about investigative journalism in authoritarian context. So if some of you are interested in that, you can be there. But here we are going to start a session on Can We Save the Internet? And it's an honor to invite on stage Rebecca MacKinnon. Please give a round of applause for Rebecca. She's one of the founders of Global Voices, and right now she's with Wikimedia Foundation. And now, let me join her in, please welcome to the stage, Yuka Carolina, Asteris, and Brian. So, Rebecca, can we leave the stage with you? Yes?
Can we have Mike here, please?
Yeah, please. Can we have like 4 microphones? And I'll hand over the session to Rebecca. So the floor is yours, Rebecca. Thank you.
Meanwhile, let me take the opportunity to mention you all that there is a simultaneous translation going on. If you haven't taken the translation devices yet, you can find them on the right-hand side to the stage at the back. And also, please, I kindly remind you all to return the devices once you use it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Over to you, Rebecca.
Yeah, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Namaste. Everyone, can you hear me? Yes, wonderful. This is a great panel, I think, to open the day. I just want to thank again Sanjip for being just such a wonderful host to all of us. So please give a round of applause. And to all of our Nepali hosts here, and to the Nepali journalism and citizen media and language community here. It wouldn't be such a successful summit without our local friends. So thank you very much. So this morning we're going to talk about saving the internet. And I feel that this conversation we're about to have will really build on the conversation that Ethan, my Global Voices co-founder, started yesterday about where have all the bloggers gone, and then there was another session about authoritarianism reaching through the screen led by Arzu here. And I kind of think about this session as the third phase in an ongoing conversation that we are having as a community. Now, it's been 20 years since we started Global Voices. Ethan and I organized a workshop on the sidelines of another meeting at Harvard. And the idea being because blogging was becoming increasingly a phenomenon globally. And we didn't know what exactly was going to come out of it. Excuse me. I'll try this one. Sorry. Is this working? Yeah, okay. But we'll talk more in the final session about how Global Voices came to be. But I think all of us who came together as bloggers at the time felt strongly that if we could use the internet to connect, to listen to one another, to build bridges, to build cafes of dialogue, that would bring about change, or it would help to bring about change. It was a much more optimistic time. Then, by about 10 years later, by 2014, it was becoming clear that authoritarianism had adapted to the internet and was adapting fast and was starting to change the internet in collaboration often with large multinational social media platforms that profited on really amplifying incitement and often hate. And at the time, I'd just written a book predicting that if we did not do something, the internet globally was going to become more and more like China. It wasn't going to just free us just by virtue of being the internet. So in this session, we're going to explore ways that we might counteract the increasing polarization and fragmentation of online spaces. And so I have here with me today Yuka Carolina Bronciet, Brian Hugh, and Asteris Masouras. I'm not going to define them. They'll get to define themselves to you in Global Voices fashion, so they can tell you a little bit who they are when they answer this question. And the question for each of you, starting with Yuka, is that given that authoritarianism has adapted the internet and changed the internet, how can we take back the internet from authoritarianism, division, fear, and hate-mongering that has become so prevalent?
Thank you, Rebecca, for the question. Good morning, everybody. I think I want to start to say that we see internet we can see the internet through countless of spectacles. Yes, you're right that in the beginning we have a very optimistic views about the internet, how it is a place, but also a temporality where people are exchanging ideas and principles and everything. Now it started to change. I think I started to see that it evolves over time. It cannot solely considered as a tool again, because throughout these years, as it evolves, it starts to be embedded and influence our life in such a great way. And it became a place where various geopolitical actors that are non-state actors, they not only embed themselves, but they thrive. And this is what I think that we need to consider, is that each one of us are geopolitical actors. Civic movements, NGOs, organizations, grassroots, indigenous voices, they are the new geopolitical actors, and we have to admit it. Yes, we're talking about the authoritarianism, but we also have to consider there are other geopolitical actors with various level of capacity to reorganize themselves through resource and actually creating something new. And when we ask, can we save the internet against all of those elements that you listed about? Can we push back? As myself a perpetual geopolitical student and observer, as well as I've been tethered to Global Voices since 2008. I've seen all of these changes on various levels, from the local level, national, international, that yes, it's something that perhaps it's not pushback. It's something that we have to see that pushback is not something that's really easy when the likes of a larger geopolitical actor like governments, they have the means and the tools and the times, and they are actually the ones who setting the perimeter to make sure what they want to do happen. So I think whether we can or not is to limit that, in hope that by limiting their power, we can also create some sort of a sustainable movement, not to push back, but not to let them spread without a fight.
That's fantastic. We are geopolitical actors. We need to embrace and use that potential power. So moving on to Brian, from your perspective, working in Taiwan, but also globally, connecting with global audiences, from your experience, what do you think works? Where do we go from here?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Brian, and I helped found New Bloom, which is an independent media in Taiwan a decade ago. And so we've been working with GV on various things. So I think particularly with Taiwan and dealing with a lot of the threats in the region, what has been successful is a division of labor in which groups, build on each other's work, don't necessarily replicate each other's work in the sense of doing the same thing and reinventing the wheel. And I think particularly a lot of the hopes for the early internet was that it could be liberatory, stretching across borders and connecting us. And then in this space now we find that it's been taken over by the same multinationals and state actors we were trying to resist. And they have vast capacities that we don't have in terms of resources and ability to leverage in that sense across borders. But I think sometimes we maybe don't remember that there has always been resistance. And in the early days of the internet, this took various forms, and it does continue today. For example, the conversation yesterday was on where have all the bloggers gone. Twitter and Facebook are posts. Those are blog posts. And yet we call it a different thing. And it's different because it's structured according to algorithms, and the companies can decide what we see rather than us curating and seeing things ourselves. But maybe we need to get back to that, because I think that in the face of challenges, people invent new tools or find ways to appropriate the tools that have been given to us by these large multinationals. What's interesting to me in the Taiwan context, but also regionally, is seeing that authoritarian actors have in many ways learned from each other. Whether it's Marcos Jr. in the Philippines or Prabowo in Indonesia, they've done similar things in terms of leveraging on historical nostalgia for past authoritarianism, that people's memories of the past have faded. And so I think particularly for us, we need to learn from each other and do it faster than the authoritarians, because that's what we have as an advantage, that we are more mobile and than I think the state actors and multinationals can be in terms of creativity. And so I think in terms of lessons from Taiwan, but also the region, this division of labor, building on each other's work, and dividing up tasks rather than too many people going for the same topic. And so I think those are perhaps some of the approaches, but it's something we're exploring together.
Asteris.
Okay. Hey, good day to you all. So when we started out, at least my generation, there was no internet, but we had pre-existing modes of communication that were broadcasting mostly. So the internet came into being during this, the time of my own growing up, but I expected it. I'm not saying I sort of wished it, but I was looking forward to it, and I got onto the first versions of the internet, the academic one, and I started downloading stuff. FTP was there, IRC, all these protocols, and these protocols were sort of the initial architecture of hope that allowed us to construct so much historical knowledge on top of the infrastructure of the internet and what it became. The internet was changing all the time, right? So like, Gopher was a thing, and then it wasn't, and then you had the World Wide Web. Nobody calls it like that anymore. Everybody calls it the web. And even, they don't even call it that anymore. It's the internet. The web is the internet. When you ask me, how can you save the internet, I'm thinking, which part of it? Because the internet is not just the www. Also, we've taken out that part from URLs. For many people, the internet is Facebook. So, and also the expectation that people have of the internet is different than what we had. We used it to create repositories of knowledge, and those repositories, over the passage of time, eroded, were corrupted, and some disappeared. So I think that's a fundamental question to start with. How can we trust the existing infrastructure and the people operating it and funding it and using it to preserve historical knowledge? Because history is where hope lies. History powers hope. I think there's a fundamental connection between the fact that we all feel hopeless today and the loss of this historical memory. And I think it's a good place to start seeking new ways to not only preserve historical memory, but also inspire new creativity and a new architecture of hope.
Thank you. So, finding ways to build community and build hope to push back. So, which brings to me sort of this question of, we've seen authoritarianism adapt to the internet. We've seen authoritarianism change the internet in ways that work for authoritarians. What are the next steps, really? Thinking really practically, and I want to give plenty of time for discussion with everyone in the room because I think we can have some really interesting exchanges. But how do we go about not only adapting to this new situation in ways that are more effective, as you put it, building the communities, building the hope, finding ways to be effective geopolitical actors, right? And also, as Brian was saying, learning from one another, division of labor, all of those kinds of things. So how do we go from there to both adapt to the new circumstances and then start to change not only the sort of technical environment, but sort of how the norms work? Creating the types of open, inclusive, diverse spaces that we need. And of course, GV counts as an open, diverse, inclusive, empathetic space. How do we help create more of these spaces, make them stronger, so that we can act? And kind of what's the next step? Yuka, would you like to start, or?
Yeah, sure, I can start. I think there's something that's immediate, is we need to have the intent and stop and occasionally stop being an observer and actually put the hat of a learner and activist. Because as we learn, all of this authoritarianism, they didn't came up overnight. They're legitimizing themselves in a way that it was a process. It takes a while for them too. They built the infrastructure, they built the mode, they implement it, and they have their own playbook, which I believe us need to really open to learn what that playbook or playbooks are to understand the enemy. Let's just be open about it, that we are all against authoritarianism. We don't want it to spread even further. But if we don't know what we're fighting, what's in front of us and what we're fighting for, and we don't understand their playbook, we don't know how to dismantle them. I think we can all start with intent, personal intent. And then I believe that when we have that kind of personal intent, we can identify next the other geopolitical actors with similar intent. And then with the risk of being overly optimistic, and while we still can, internet is still that place where we can regroup, where we can also share our knowledge and learn from each other, unlearn from each other. Also, it's part of the process because we are people. We are we have our different upbringings. We have our society that defines us somehow. The process of unlearning is important too, I believe. I'm going to leave it to the rest of the panelists to continue.
Yeah, so I think particularly, for example, building on what Astrid was also saying, if we do live in a time in which there is a lot of nostalgia for authoritarian pasts or unawareness of this period, particularly among younger people that did not experience it, then our resources perhaps historical archives. But then the danger is that platforms have taken ownership of the things that we have, and sometimes they go down or are acquired by some crazy person like Elon Musk. Or then we find that we lose these archives, which are powerful resources. And so I think ownership and not putting everything onto there is very important, particularly as we encounter younger generations that haven't experienced a pre-platform internet. But in that sense, learning from each other, I think, is important. Only. Oh, yeah, okay, I think this one works. So, and we can not only do that on a nation-by-nation basis, because when I see attempts to create transnational networks, sometimes it is zooming on another country and so forth, rather than seeing what is spreading from place to place to place, because sometimes the same actors are there, such as the big multinational companies, or authoritarians learning from each other in that sense. So I think what we need is to really take advantage of our capacity to learn from each other and think beyond borders in that sense.
Asteris, before you go, I want to kind of ask a question of you. You were talking a bit about the technical infrastructure, and Brian was talking about, you know, this problem of ownership, this problem of really about closed source, gated communities, and of course the opposite of that is open source, openly licensed content, open communities, data that, you know, you can port your data from, you own your own data, you know, some of those principles, non-commercial, public interest work, and spaces. And I'm wondering if you could provide some of your own thoughts about just the both technical and commercial or non-commercial nature of the spaces we need to create.
Sorry. Yes, that's true, and that's how I also started. My fascination with blogging wasn't only with journalism, which I was a news junkie even as I was growing up in the 80s, and you know, watching all the astonishing news going about. But also, I was a tech geek, so those were my two sides. And the second side was immediately attracted to the prospect of the open internet. Even the idea of how the web came about, it was a fairy tale, right? So, and it worked. And you can build so much on it. And we started building all of these communities that sprung up around open source, built astonishing things. I remember at the time at some point I was working at the university, and we just had servers with Debian Linux, unstable, running all sorts of crazy stuff that we could, you know, spring up in a moment's notice and just experiment with. We have not even a smidgen of this kind of creativity today. It's not even accessible if it's out there. Nobody cares about open source. Nobody builds on it. And that's sad because the creativity didn't go down the drain. It's somewhere. We have it in our own community, although it's less about the technology and more about the communication, the art. It's not infrastructural as much. But I think we can bring that back. I can't believe that having grown up in all of this astonishing bouquet of technological capacities has eroded and completely taken over companies. So that's one aspect of it. I think we can intentionally cultivate a technological culture again that strives to help the architecture of hope, that is intentionally about supporting projects like ours. We can do that for others. We can share that grounded hope. But also we should start taking back our data, like you said. I'm not saying going away from the platforms, but making sure that nobody can pull the plug and erase you from the internet. So that's something that we should be intentional about. But also, on the side of being there, I keep saying to people, I'm not going away from what I call Twitter. It's still Twitter to me. It's my home, and he's not going to evict me, right? He can pull the plug, he can suspend me, but I'll be there because the people are there, the stories, and also, where will you fight authoritarianism? Do you keep running? It's like the three little piggies being chased by the wolf. I keep saying that, but that's how I feel. We keep running to the next house and the next house. That's no hope. The hope is to stand and fight where you are, but also to enable that stand with practical purpose.
That's yes. Can you interrupt?
Yeah, can I interrupt? Because we have next session in Darbar Hall, which is called Investigative Journalism in Authoritarian Context. So it's going to start in 3 minutes, so might be somebody will join that. So please continue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, we started late, so other panels are starting on time, which makes sense. So listening to the three of you, I'm reminded of the PhD thesis, the PhD dissertation written by Lokman Toy, who might be here in the audience. I'm not sure. Raise your hand if you're here. But Lokman did his PhD dissertation about global voices, and he focused on the idea, the concept of hospitality. Spending time here with all of you, I keep thinking about hospitality, the empathy, the openness. Hospitality is kind of the opposite of hate, of exclusion, of forgetting. We welcome differences, diversity, languages. We're excited about welcoming in more people who want to work together to preserve indigenous languages, to preserve languages and help everyone's culture and language thrive on the internet, and make sure that we are not being defined by others. We are able to define and speak and be heard and seen ourselves. And just, we can, whichever of you wants to speak to this first, and then we'll kind of open it up because I really want to talk about next steps. But from a more practical sense, if we're being open, we're being hospitable, we're being empathetic, we're kind of working hard to embody the opposite of what authoritarianism is promoting. Coming back to this notion of being geopolitical actors, how do we take this quality, these qualities, these activities, and turn it into geopolitical power? How do we turn it into a movement that can have an impact geopolitically or politically?
I would like to begin with a note that too many of GVers, we are tethered to GV. It's primarily because in GV we experienced this a learned experience about empathy, and solidarity stemmed from empathy. I must say it's perhaps it's not a norm everywhere, but it is with GV. It feels always like we have a lot of the understanding about the world. And GV is where we tethered, because it's a big table where even when people don't know each other by names and faces, they know and they believe that we are walking together towards a very common goal, which is a good one, the greater good. And in this big table, there's always someone, when you're new, there's always someone who would pull up a chair and make sure that you have a space there. Not only to be heard, but making sure that your experience or your experiments are not bottled for yourself, but your experiments will have a space, and they will make sure that you know you have the right to own your experience, and to know that you have a support when probably your experience are not a good thing. This will be a place where it fills with empathical person who will loan their solidarity for you. And basically, they are extending their hand and their time to listen and maybe cry with you a bit. You know, until we are all gain spirit and strength to move another day. And you felt less alone in your own battle, in your own demons. And you know that because you're tethered to this, it's not only not always person or group, but global voices.
So, we keep having microphone trouble. I think it's interesting thinking about global voices at 20 then, for example. I think in the early 2000s, there was much enthusiasm around blogging, where someone leaves a long thought out comment below, you talk to that person, and they become your friend. You might meet them, you might not meet them, you might exchange emails and maintain connections that way. Then in the early 2010s, there was the Occupy movement, there was the Indignados, there was the Arab Spring. Social media seemed like a now, in which then we have the opposite. We have all these anonymous comments that are hateful. It's very hard to engage. And we want those communities in which it's tightly knit. And I think that's what, for example, communities such as GV can play a role. I go to these kind of things to make friends because you care about things happening in other parts of the world when you know somebody from that part of the world. To give an example, a few days ago, in the middle of the summit, martial law in South Korea happened. And what then happened was all these different groups I have start reacting, posting news. Should we write a statement? How can we help? Reaching out to Korean friends. And what's interesting to me is I would see the same text appear in multiple groups, copied and pasted. Again, iterating, building on top of each other. And these are ways that various communities that have connections and some shared people in common can be interlinked and build on top of each other. And I think that's something that here, because many of us are part of GV, but also other organizations, it can be a network of networks. And I think this is maybe something we can do.
Okay, it's working for now.
Yeah, what Brian said about South Korea, I think I tweeted after like spending an hour doing curation. It still works for curation. If you have lists and people who you follow, it works. So I was astounded. It was like, 10 years ago. And I think I tweeted, it's one of the few things that put a spring into my step and hope. So, hope is possible. We're sort of inching toward, well, not inching, we're sort of accelerating towards apparently a new dark age. But it'll pass eventually. We need to have hope, but also we need to be practical about it. Intentionality is a big aspect of it. We all have experience in weathering difficult situations and crises and tragedies and wars, and using solidarity as a mechanism to support each other, but also to chronicle history. So I think these are teachable, and we should be intentional about passing the baton and mentoring people and supporting them, but also making them visible to others. Because it's this divisiveness of, splitting off on our own, balkanizing the internet, not caring about the people who suffer in one part of the world, and just, geopolitically focusing on very specific conflicts. That helps the oppressors do their work and destroy us. So I will come back to intentionality and practical solidarity should be strategic.
I would like to add a little bit about that. I think it's very good what you said, that solidarity needs to be strategic, because we can all see that how platforms disappointed us over and over again. We are disappointed by the takeover of Twitter. It feels like our space are shrinking. But let's face it, everything is designed for profit. So it's not about it, it's just a matter of time. Strategic is very, very important, Esther. I totally agree with you. And sometimes we archive things, but it's also we need to be an active participant because we are stakeholders. Without us, the users, there won't be any platform. So we need to be more insistent. We cannot just bow in front of the altar of these platforms being decided by the policymaker in favor of this big tech company and deciding of what is freedom for us. So, yeah, I think it's something that a newer platform may not be the solution that is tangible for all of us, for our freedom, for democratic practices, freedom of speech. But I think what's tangible in the future would be us as a community. How can we work together to call these policy makers and the tech company to be more responsible? This is the world that we should project, not the world, their world projected to us.
I can add something to that. I think we should also bring back the practical side of things. We should build things. Platforms, I don't believe that the creativity has gone. I'm not saying we can reclaim our presence and just go off and build an open source anti-Twitter. I'm saying there are people out there who could build stuff and we can support them to do so, especially archival capacities, publishing capacities. We don't need to have all our presences on those platforms. I think that will help. There's a shrinking of ownership of our data and our activities, and that's basically leading us towards an inevitability.
Great. I'd like to open it up to the room. I see Arzu putting up her hand so we can get a mic over there. And I also want to kind of throw out a challenge to both the panelists and to everyone in the room. I was really inspired by a session we had with Malka a few days ago in our internal workshop where she had us imagine what the future would look like 20 years ago. And I'm sort of curious to hear from everyone, the panelists and others in the room, you know, what is our ideal positive vision for the future 20 years from now that we want to be celebrating? So just throw that out there as a thought. But Arzu, please.
Thank you, Rebecca, and thank you to the panelists for their very insightful and inspiring comments. And as you were all speaking about solidarity, about building, about working together and supporting each other, one thought occurred to me, and I'm wondering what you all think about it, because it's been now mentioned several times in various conferences on digital rights and the future of the internet. Decentralized web, decentralized internet, P2P connections, and how in the framework of building technology or building alternative platforms, this could actually be a useful tool or as a starting point to detach ourselves from the platforms that we used to rely on, which have disappointed us, detach ourselves from the existing mechanisms that we've been relying to continue our work, and build on alternative models for writing stories, reaching out, for expressing solidarity. Thank you.
Who wants to take that?
I think we should be everywhere, frankly. We shouldn't see any ground. As a community, we can be everywhere. We can monitor and protect in a way, because we used to do that. We used to monitor spaces out there in the world and protect people. Be a witness. I think we should be everywhere, and that's the decentralized community. And we should talk to each other horizontally across all these platforms, share our experiences, cross-post it again. I know it's hard. I've been trying to cross-post during our coverage on social media here, and it's a lot. I was like thinking that a decade ago I would only have to post on one platform. Now it's like 3, and it's hard to keep it. But I think it's something, again, intentionality that we should do and not let them drift apart. But yes, also we should decentralize. That's definitely a technological capacity we should pursue. I think in space engineering, there's this redundancy mentality that you shouldn't rely on one instance of an equipment. So yes, we should definitely decentralize.
Yeah,
I also want to respond to that. I think particularly the thing that decentralized networks have is there are a lot of different approaches occurring in parallel, and we don't know which one is right. And so rather than putting all your eggs in one basket and that approach is wrong, then in such communities, there's a lot of things that are occurring at once. And one of those, or multiple of those, can be successful, and they can build on each other. I just do wonder a bit about, for example, there's the talk of centralized platforms, because particularly we've seen some go down, and now we're not in the age of Twitter, but then I post on Twitter, Instagram, Mastodon, Blue Sky, Threads every day. And I also check when I wake up all my emails, Messenger, Instagram, WhatsApp, Telegram, Line, Signal, Discord. Gets a bit tiring. But so I wonder about that. But also, we need spaces that are communities, that are not just, you're not going to encounter the toxic troll from online here. Hopefully not. But then there is also a need sometimes for a public square, which is out in the open. And I think there will be some toxicity there, because you will have those people, because they will be leaving comments, because they are out in the open. And we need also then some, both central and decentral in that sense. Yeah.
I would like to respond to Arzu on that. Today, I'm kind of on the fence with decentralization, because in short, it's exhausting. And geopolitical actor, the major one, who oftentimes legitimize violence for their goals, they use a tactic very commonly called containment. Decentralization today, for me, it feels like we are being contained and not the other way around. I would say that decentralization, yes, why not? But it's not a sustainable thing, and it's not supposed to be a norm. We're not the one in the wrong side of the history. So, see it how you will, but I just believe that if we want to choose decentralization, is to actually regain our communal power and take back what's rightfully ours in the first place. And it's not supposed to be the norm for everything, everywhere, everybody. Because that is not the principle of open internet. And yeah, just that as a fruit of thought. Sorry, it's still before 10 o'clock.
We have someone here.
Hello, I'm Kavita Bahing. I think what could be our dream internet, obviously, as someone working in a very marginalized community and coming from that background, I think I would definitely want a feminist internet where we all have our own agency and our control over ourselves in internet. Definitely without any kind of ism working, moderating us, guiding us, maybe that. But again, when we are talking about all this internet, saving internet, I would be thinking about we are trying to save internet for whom? Who should be the responsible one? And I think my question is also in that line. Obviously, a lot of things that we have been doing, the civil society and the activist has done is very incredible, because we are kind of fighting to exist, to make ourselves, our voices ensure in this hopelessness. We're trying to find hope in hopelessness, right? But this is how we activists sustain, I know that. But my question is, obviously all this nuanced conversation that we have been doing around accountability, saving internet, people, tech, all this responding to restricting our rights, who should be responsible? Because this nuanced conversation, I think we have done a lot. And we will continue doing it, but who should be responsible? And if we are the responsible person, then to what extent? Yeah, thank you.
That's a great question. How responsible are we for our future, or for the broader internet's future? Anybody want to start?
Yeah, I have some thoughts on this, because I think particularly there's a desire to have the platforms be much more accountable, and, for example, through laws, and then the state regulating companies. But the state itself is also something that we need to have oversight over, because that itself is, of course, not always accountable. And I think there's a difficulty, particularly for smaller outlets. This is an example from Taiwan, the Digital Intermediate Service Act, or whatever. The smaller platforms could not actually really deal with disinformation as effectively, because if there are requirements to do so and take it off with a certain amount of time, the ones that are volunteer run and don't have resources or have an unclear legal entity, that puts a lot of burden on them for a little amount of content. It might be a gaming forum, 99.99% of content is about video games. 0.01 is information. And so how do they deal with that? Whereas Facebook or Twitter or whoever can have teams to deal with that, because they have resources. So I'm actually not sure. I don't have an answer to that. But I think that we are dealing with a lot of forces in the world that are accountable to us. And in the meantime, they profit off of us. And without us, there would be nothing.
We're talking about responsibility here, but I think that's the, if I understood the question correctly, but I think that's fundamental aspect of what we're doing. Again, intentionality. We are responsible for every aspect of our presence online, and that's not just because we were under risk of being doxxed or persecuted. Everything we do and everything we say affects others. Call it the butterfly effect, call it whatever, it has to be intentional. So the responsibility, we already have it. We might not exercise it, but I think we're more responsible than the companies. So I wouldn't object to collective ownership of these entities. You guys know there's a term called P2P. could be maybe made to work about supporting these infrastructures. I'm not a geek anymore in those terms, so I cannot give you a definitive answer, but we can explore it together. We can find out what is possible in the now. So much was possible 20 years ago that I cannot believe we cannot find a way to build an alternative platform.
You have me at the word feminist. So I think I'm going to give my key takeaway from starting from that. But I don't have an answer to who's responsible, because I believe that we are multitude of selves. So when you say like who's responsible for what, when, and how, I guess, how do you associate? Responsible for your actions, of course, is yourself. But other things than that is something that you need to reflect. I must note that, as you know, you mentioned about feminism. Women are given an imagined online and offline. We are given space. Why this mic is censoring me when I was saying that? So keep that in mind. That when oftentimes the violence inflicted to women, both online and offline, is because we are made believe that we have a space and voice, oftentimes, and then somehow, circumstances or something, it just annuls that. So if you identify that occurring in your life, to your community, then you can identify who's wrong and identify who should be responsible for that to get, justice. I think that's what I could say.
I think we have someone over here. Please. Who has the mic? Please. Is the mic working? No?
Hello everyone, my name is Diksha Kargi and I'm from Nepal. So thank you all the panels for talking about authoritarianism and decentralization. I was thinking of how in the previous year we have faced a lot of censorship, and so I was thinking of this question: how when we are talking about decentralizing internet, there comes the question of data justice, of how when in the rise of global inequality between the global north and global majority, where does the role of global majority where does the role of global south lies when the internet is built in the expense of global majority, especially when from resources to training AIs and stuff like that. So who is accountable for that? Thank you.
Very good question. Anybody want to go first? And we've got about 5 minutes, so let's keep our answers short and see.
I think it's a challenge because the powerful tech companies are mostly global north, and then they think more about global south in terms of decisions which are very unaccountable again, and then they outsource work like, I don't know, looking through disinformation to the global south. So how do we get them to bring them to the table, because they depend on us? And so I think that's something we need to think about, how to drag them to the table by force.
You had something?
Test. I think I want to follow that. I hope I get the question right. But once again, I think there has been two similar questions, but asking who's responsible. And it's not really easy to answer, because we are currently in this world where AI is quite common and all, but it's still work in progress. And to get them accountable. We cannot let the platform or foundation or this group of technologies to define without consulting us first. We need a bigger table on that. That's something that I feel strongly about. Because if not, then we're going to continue using those AR products, but as a consumer, and consumer only. And that would be a greater issue. And about accountability of that, I would like to return to my previous statement. We're all stakeholders. But we need to make sure that those who are the creators know that we are stakeholders.
Yeah. In our last 2 minutes, I just quickly want to ask each of you, what do you think Global Voices, the Global Voices community, can do to build a better future on the internet?
Global Voices comes from the future as we've well established in the past few days. All of you are part of some future, typically dystopic in ways that are teachable. So I think that's one responsibility that we have, preparing humanity for a worse stage of existence for however long that takes, but also cultivating resilience and how can I put it? An architecture of hope that doesn't rely on hardware, that relies on wetware. Because I think the entirety of all of this that is worth salvaging is the human network. So what we are, I think that's, it can be stored in people as histories, but also we can teach new generation how to build more of it.
Yeah, so to be quick, I think we can learn. Also, I can't tell sometimes, but I think that, sure, Global Voices, we can't save the internet on ourselves, but we can model the internet or the networks of the future, the society that we want to be in ourselves. And I think that's something that we can do.
Yuka.
The future needs to be more empathical. And I think solidarity that's more sustainable also can be rooted in that. We are the prototypes, and we just need to be like that and multiple. We multiply our what we are, basically. So don't be afraid to pull up a chair when you just discovered new themes arising. Go inside to that dialogue even though you don't understand. Because, well, limited may it sound, but the understanding will come if we continue the dialogue. Don't just be a bystander or an archivist. At one point in life or multiple points in life, we need to assume the hat of being an activist, because Global Voices is basically that. Translation is activism. Writing is activism, you know, indigenous voices and making people understand what is the most concerning things within your indigenous community. That's activism. So we cannot just, you know, to the least, advocate that these mechanisms are possible.
Thank you all. What I'm hearing from and from all of you is that the internet is not just a technical construct, it's a human construct, and its future depends on all of us. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Rebecca, for moderating such an inspiring discussion. And thank you so much, distinguished panelists, for that insightful comments and sharing. Up next, we have a very interesting session, more so because it's very close to my heart. 6 months ago, nearly 6 months ago, Rising Voices and UNESCO collaborated to organize a online conference to provide a platform for digital initiatives in Nepal. So we have speakers from that panel discussion as well today with us. And without any further delay, please join me to invite Eddie Avila, the moderator of the next session. And the topic of the next session is Internet is not multilingual enough.
We asked them to talk about their work, even in a short lightning talk or elevator pitch format. But as Barsha mentioned, we have been collaborating with UNESCO. When we found out we were coming to the summit in Nepal, we wanted to learn about experiences here. And so I'd like to invite our first guest. We have the slides, please, from the first block, to briefly talk about their work in 3 minutes, and then we'll switch over to the next one. And so you'll be hearing a lot of different projects, a lot of different perspectives, also including in their own languages. So I'd like to invite Lalima to come up.
Jojolapa, namaste, and hello to everyone. So, without wasting time, I'll just start. What is Nepal Bhasha? So, Nepal Bhasha is a language, is an indigenous language of Newa community. And this language has been degrading after the socio and political centralization of and this was degraded because Khas Bhasha, which is also called, which is also known as national language, was promoted, and due to that, it was also promoted for the administrative work and education and culture. So due to that, the Nepal Bhasha speakers were degrading, and according to the UNESCO, only 8,46,600 speakers were only, was only there. And due to this data, like we as a Newa, we were very, it really went into our heart. So due to that, there were so many organizations who was working on promoting the culture of Newa civilization and also working on promoting of Newa language and scripts. So in all this thing, what happened was the language and scripts were still not in that use as the culture where people were preserving it, where people were loving to promote it and in a regular basis. Hello. So, can you hear? Yeah, okay. So yeah. Hello. Hi. Okay. Thank you. So how it started was like, yeah, as the culture was getting promoted in the regular basis, but the language and scripts were not in that use, you know. So so World Newa Organization had a planning and discussion on how to let's promote our language, you know. So on December 2020, World Nepal Organization had a planning on promoting Nepal Bhasha globally, and so we had a meeting how we can put this Nepal Bhasha in a global platform, and then we started our Google Translation project, Nepal Bhasha Google Translation project. It was started on, the planning was started on 2020 December, and then the digitalization process was started on April 2021, and then the community contribution. Without community contribution, it was really difficult, and it was nearly impossible for us to bring Nepal Bhasha in a global platform, let's say, like, worldwide approach. So, yeah. And then in June 2024, we were successful to launch Google Nepal Bhasha Google Translation. And so, yeah, talking about the contribution, community contribution, how we connected was like, it was really very difficult for us to input the data in Google with very few and very limited people. So what we did was, as a World Nepal Organization being an umbrella, we connected with the organization, different NEWA organization and different people all around the world, NEWA people all around the world, and also whoever knows the Nepal Bhasha as Nepal Bhasha. And so still till date, it started in 2021, but still till date we are working on Google Translation. Still, though it was launched in June, if we see today, then above 75% to 80%, we can get the accurate translation. As you can, so you could have seen in the slide which was shown there, like, yeah, here. So here it's like, hello everyone, welcome to Google Global Voice Summit, and the translation is really accurate. There, it's like, it says, Jojo Lopasakasita, Global Voice Summit, Lasakusadu. So this is, in this translation has helped many people here after after the launch, because youth like me and other people who really wants, there are a lot of people who really wants to learn Nepal Bhasha, but not as a, not as course or something like that, but for the very basic conversation, it is really difficult for the youth like us from the same community to talk, and then this has been a very good tool and good place where we can, where we are able to. Hello? Yeah. So yeah, it has, this Google Translation has become a very good platform where we can learn Nepal Bhasha, and also it is one of the tools where people can, where people as in, like, teachers, where Nepal Bhasha has been prioritized in local curriculum as well here in Kathmandu Valley, and it has become one of the tools for teachers to learn as well. So yeah, and talking about the community contribution, I cannot forget, there are so many people who have started who started in 2021, but still till date, we are still working on Google Translation with the same speed and same enthusiasm. And now, though it has been launched, but still, what we are doing now is we are validating and submitting the correct statements, the correct sentences from the Google, and yeah, this process. this process goes very long. This will be continuing. But yeah, so this is the Google Translation, Nepal Bhasha Google Translation project, and it is one of the very important project for not only Newa community, but it is very important and very big thing for whole country, as Nepal Bhasha represents not only Newa community, it represents whole Nepal.
Media by profession, and we have been doing by profession. And we have been doing this project, Kali Jatra, promoting language, Nepal Bhasha Kali Jatra, promoting language, Nepal Bhasha language, and also Ranjana script simultaneously in the same manner. And we have been doing this for past 4 years, and we have been promoting Kali Jatra is promoting Ranjana script mainly, and also we are promoting other scripts as well. So as you can see, this is a manuscript of Nepal, and we are also digitalizing manuscript that can be found in history only, or in only on archive, and we are digitalizing this manuscript as well. And yes, we just a few months back, we officially registered as Kali Jatra Foundation, but we are, like I said, we have been promoting, we have been doing this work for past 3-4 years. And yes, through this Kali Jatra, we are doing workshop, over 80+ workshop. We are doing workshop, live calligraphy workshop, and also we are doing, we are deploying apps, tools, and Lipi tools, and also we are doing, we are also involved in Google Translate as well, and also Lalima is also a member of Kali Jatra, and we are also involving in Google Translate project as well. And talking about Kali Jatra, or let's say Kali Jatra is mainly promoting Nepal Bhasha and Ranjana script in digital platform as well. And for this, we have been promoting Kali Jatra through social media. And as you can see, our Ranjana script is widely used in our posters or digital backdrops, and also in Kathmandu metropolitan city, you can see flexing flexing Ranjana script there as well. So now we can see Ranjana script is widely used as logo and also as jewelries as well. And yes, this is how we are promoting Ranjana script. And now we can see we are promoting Ranjana script and also Nepal Lipi and Bhuji Molo, or also other scripts as well. And also we are deployed, like I have said, we have deployed Type Newa Lipi, where you can tease, or you can learn self our Ranjana script, and also you can convert Lipi tool. And just a few months back, we have deployed Nitya Ranjana font in collaboration with Ektype of Nepal, of India, sorry. And through this Nitya Ranjana font, we have won multiple renowned awards, such as D&AD Yellow Pencil Award and TDC Award, and also Curious Blue Elephant Award. We have won these awards, and also we are promoting this Ranjana script widely as well. And also, we didn't stay still during lockdown as well. We started virtual workshop classes, and we have launched, or we have published various type of guidebooks, and also we have done 1-minute tutorial video to 1-hour tutorial videos. We have launched that as well. And also, yes, and also virtually we are taking classes of Nepal Bhasha, and this is how we are promoting Ranjana Lipi and language simultaneously, or let's say in the same manner. And okay, yes, and at last I would like to say to everyone that let's promote our script, and let's promote indigenous language as well. Thank you.
Namaste. Good morning, everyone. My name is Thirajan Panta, and I'm deeply passionate about language preservation and digital activism. For the past several years, I've been contributing to Doteli Wikipedia. Doteli is a regional language spoken by over 800,000 people in western parts of Nepal. Today, I'm sharing my journey and insights on the preservation of Doteli language in the form of digital content. So my journey was begin with the realization that Doteli language has a rich tradition in its oral form, songs and folk tales and other many traditions. It is only in the form of oral form. There are some published works as well, but they are not available easily. I tried many times to find those published works. The published works are some literature works. Folk tales, a collection of metaphors, poems, other literature works. But I was not able to easily find them. After 2000s, local radio stations become popular, and they started broadcasting few programs, radio programs in a language. They cover news programs, live programs, and other radio dramas. But if we came to the digital content that is accessible by all, there is virtually nothing on the website. So I was wondering if there are any platform through which I can preserve my language and which can be accessed by all over the world. So after that, I attended an event at Kathmandu University where I met Mr. Saroj Dhakal, who introduced me about the Doteli Wikipedia, which was then in incubation phase. It was in 2016. So the incubation, the first page of Doteli Wikipedia was created in 2014 by a contributor from Dailek, Ram Prasad Joshi. Though he is not from the region, the core region where this language is spoken, he was the first to create the page. So, and then I met Mr. Janak Bhatta. He was the active contributor to Doteli Wikipedia. And the dedication inspired me to work on the Doteli Wikipedia. And then we worked together to make the project successful. And in 2017, the date, April 24, we celebrated a major milestone. Doteli Wikipedia became an independent project. We mark this achievement. We organized its first anniversary celebration in 2018, an event aimed at raising awareness, inspiring contributors, and strengthening our community's connection to the platform. So in addition to Doteli Wikipedia, we also started Doteli Wiktionary project in February 2017 to create a digital dictionary for the language. However, this project remains in incubation phase due to difficulties in attracting a larger pool of contributors. So today, .le Wikipedia have over 3,500 articles. These are not just articles, these are the representation of cultural and linguistic heritage. There are many challenges we faced. .le language have no standard written form, and yet there is no standard written form. We have many dialects. The major dialects include Baitadali, Darsuli, Bazhangi, and .le. And with 4 contributors, there was a team of 4 contributors. We all speak different dialects. And what to write and how to write, it was a challenging thing that we were facing at the time. Then we came to an understand that the first priority should be to preserve the language. So let's write what we speak and how we knew it. The standard will automatically emerge as the time passes. So this is the journey. I remain committed to expanding .le's digital presence, but to inspire other communities as well. There are many languages in Nepal. We have 123 languages spoken, and many languages are seeking preservation. So this would also be inspiring to other languages as well, I think. So at the final, I have learned digital activism is not just about creating content, but also fostering collaboration, embracing diversity, and ensure inclusivity. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my story about preserving .le language and its cultural in this digital age. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing a quick summary of your projects, and they'll be around to talk more with you. Our next group is a group that come all the way from Mexico. Many of you have met 3 of the fellows of our Catalyst program, which we're calling. It's a program that is indigenous-led and run by peer mentors. So we have a group of mentors. If you could raise your hand, Marco, Cecil, Lorenzo, if they're here. But there are our program team that have been, new activists at one time. Many of them, including Lorenzo Cecil, I've known for 10 years at a previous event, and now they're working with Rising Voices as Rising Voices team members. And so I'd like to invite Katia, Abby, and Selfa to come up. There are 3 of our fellows. There's 30 fellows in total. It's a year-long program where each of them get a small stipend to run a community-based digital project in their communities based off self-identified needs. They join a peer learning community where they share their experiences, their challenges, but also find solidarity with others. And again, there are 10 members per year, and we were able to bring 3 of them all the way to Nepal, and they're going to be sharing, again, briefly, about some reflections about their work. And they worked very hard to be able to provide this in English, and they're multilingual, as you can imagine, so they're going to share in English. If you could put the second block up, I believe Abby is up first.
Bishabelesh, good morning. My name is Esther Abisac Aguilar Tziu, but they call me Abby. I am Mayan from the community of Jose Maria Morelos in the state of Quintana Roo, located in the peninsula of Mexico, Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico. I am studying to be an elementary school teacher. I believe in strengthening my language to preserve our identity as indigenous peoples and safeguard our knowledge so that in the future, new generations can also access more of our culture and history as a community. That is why I opted to be a Mayan language fellow. At first, I didn't have the confidence to carry out my project, to create social media videos using TikTok and Facebook to document the daily life of my community, especially about recipes for traditional sweets and traditional medicines. I even was thinking of proposing that someone else should carry out my project. However, to my surprise, I was selected and decided I would be the one to carry it out, because I knew that I needed to leave my comfort zone, which can be overwhelming, exciting, but above all, gratifying, when I look back and see the route traveled. An important part of my project, called Kiki Kushtal, which means good life in the Mayan language, was getting my community involved. For example, I organized art and craft workshops with the children of my town in order to create an environment where they felt safe speaking their language and had direct
speaker of Mayan Tzeltal language. And now I'm going to share with you some my experience using digital resources for my language, that is Tzeltal. And I would like to start with the word of representation. The hegemonic media in Mexico are the ones that have discriminated the most against people with indigenous roots. Not only have they forced us to think that there is just one better culture than another, or one way of thinking is valid than another. They force us to think that, well, these media have moved and distorted information about our indigenous cultures. With this information, I thought that it was necessary to use media to fight against these discriminatory narratives, and better to do it in our own languages. In 2022, the year that began the program of digital activism in Mayan languages, I was already thinking about to do, or the necessary to do a project about our culture. And this year, I was working for a local magazine and already had in mind that I wanted to do a project for my community and for my language. Because as I said before, many media have done a lot of damage to our identity. And that is why many people sometimes prefer to deny our native identity. My project was about to create a bilingual magazine, Tzeltal Spanish. This was something practical, but I didn't want to do it alone. So I tried to do workshops with some person from my community, but about graphic design basic resources. But in this year, started a wave of violence in my town, so I couldn't do anything what I would like to do. And I was about to abandon the project because it was very, very sad what was happening in that year. However, I remember that we could use some basic resources like WhatsApp, and then I used WhatsApp to look for some persons that would like to share their experiences writing the language, even they didn't know how to do it well. But the most important thing that happened is that they were native speakers. And then, sorry. Well, I encourage them to not be afraid to try to write. In this way, we were able to gather writings from students, from rural students, traditional food chefs, poets, and other topics. The name of the project from the beginning was titled Smek Up, that means the roots of the word. And more people since that year have joined us, have joined this community communication project. And this is just a summary, but the experience I had creating and strengthening this project has been deeper. But never forget that it is not only the language that we are fighting for, but that is our right since the system has taken a lot of us. We want children to never again be ashamed of their roots. We want to see themselves truly represented in the digital medias. Thank you very much.
Kushimea Bontoni, Hong Hakbi Katia Gonzalez. Hello, my name is Katia Gonzalez. I come from Mexico. I am a Soke and Tzotzil woman. My family moved to the state capital due to the violence in our town of Simojovel, Chiapas. My work focuses on democratization of quality content by and for Mayan speakers. Quality content by and for Mayan speakers. I balance the physical world and digital approaches to reach Mayan speakers beyond our historically inhabited territories. It involves crossing digital borders to connect with Tzotzil speakers across Mexico, the United States, and beyond, creating illustrated content for younger generations, and even aiding in language reacquisitions. Teamwork is important to me. I believe that the individual work as a community illustrator and editor only makes sense if it is done by and for the community. Batsiko Labalik. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias. Thank you to the three of our fellows. It's really amazing and incredibly inspiring to see just their work and just how they've integrated themselves with the GV community. And again, there's 30 more fellows that we're working with, and it's incredible. And we have similar summits that we run in Mexico every year. The next one's happening in March of 2025 in Mexico City. So thanks. One more round of applause for our fellows. Next up, I'd like to invite a longtime colleague and friend, Henner, who we've been collaborating with for more than 9 years now. And he is the lead author of a project we run in conjunction with UNESCO as part of the International Decade of Indigenous Languages. And I will let him describe it.
Isbot kechedi. Keshikan expression pe hatut kim belai. Hachta kimagin wol tianen belata wetelish yet il lactilo. I hope you have a fantastic day today. I'm really happy to be here in the company of my relatives from the Maya region. I've learned lots from them in the last 6 days, and I'm really happy that we have gotten the chance to be here in Nepal, learning from all the different peoples that come together within Global Voices. So I'm going to present a little bit of the context and a brief history of the digital toolkit that Eddie and I worked on for around a couple of years, but that perhaps we can describe in as the final result of a decade of engagement with indigenous languages and digital activism in Latin America that has expanded and reached out to other regions in the world. And in many ways, they are co-authors in so many different ways of this toolkit. So this is the cover page, and the art has been created also by a long-term collaborator of Rising Voices, Ana Huizacabe, whose art has been really at the center of this work. If you can, so as you can see, this is the QR code. We have two versions of the toolkit. One in Spanish, you saw the cover before, and this one in English. And again, if you want, you can just scan the QR code, and then you'll get the link to the UNESCO portal from where you're going to be able to download the resource. So one of the main inspirations for this is just the sheer wealth of initiatives, imagination, and creativity that indigenous language speakers show in the world. They have, without much training and without much access to technologies, been able to appropriate the many different forms of technological advancement that have reached their regions. So the toolkit at the same time is part of a process of getting to know this work, getting inspired by this work, and it runs from approximately 2014. So if you can show the next slide. So in 2014, the work that Eddie was put in charge of as the director of Rising Voices came together in Mexico, in the city of Oaxaca, that saw the celebration of the first meeting of digital activism of indigenous languages. Then that was a space where we could come together, get to know each other, and then in 2016, for the first time in Latin America, we produced a report that was called Appropriating the Networks to Strengthen the Word. And I was privileged to work with these 5 wonderful indigenous researchers from different parts of Latin America: Pedro Cardona, Liseta Tamian, Duvan Almendra, Ruben Hilare, and Yasnala A. Hill. Then with the input and the inputs that we had from that first project that looked mostly at Latin America, in 2020, Eddie started developing some of the ideas that led to a proposal that was put forward to UNESCO, and that led to a few capacity building seminars in different parts of the world: Africa, Asia Pacific, Latin America, and the Caribbean. And at the same time, there were a few open surveys that were conducted in French, Portuguese, Arabic, Russian, Hindi, and that explored the question: what is happening in all of these different regions when it comes to indigenous languages activists? With that input, we were able to begin the process of systematizing and producing a toolkit that in some ways will bring together many of the learnings that emerged from this exercise. There were also, we were lucky to have the advice of a group of approximately I want to say 200, maybe between 100 and 200 advisors from 25 countries who were speakers of more than 50 languages. With this input, and if we can go to the next slide. As you can imagine, from this vast universe of initiatives and projects, the main challenge was to be able to organize and to make sense of the richness, the sheer diversity, global in many different ways, of this work. I finally was able to make sense of them in terms of tactical choices or key approaches that indigenous language activists were using to approach the challenge of appropriating technologies for their own language's benefit. So this is what I came up with, 8 different ways of approaching that question, whether it will be for facilitating, facilitar, multiplying, that is multiplying indigenous language content on the web, normalizing, which means basically to experience as normal the going into the web and then finding your language represented, educating, which takes a little bit more than just putting content online, because educating really needs a methodology and therefore needs to be thought thoroughly. Recuperating or reclaiming, which consists on documenting the language with the use of digital tools. And finally, imagining new ways of representing, defending the integrity and the lives of indigenous languages speakers, defending their rights, being conscious that these rights are political and that they need mobilizing and activating, And finally, the challenge of protecting this knowledge once you put that knowledge online, and making sure that you still retain ownership and connection to that knowledge. Granted, the question of data sovereignty was not necessarily at the center of this toolkit, but it suggests ways of increasing your knowledge of that. So these are a few examples of the projects, and the toolkit contains, or at least mentions, approximately 100 different projects, different initiatives. These are only a few of the ones that are at the center, from community-managed internet networks like the work of TIC in Mexico, the production, as I said, of digital content in many different indigenous languages, spoken dictionaries, like the work that the Living Tongues Institute does in Micronesia. And the next slide. The creation of digital maps that represent linguistic knowledge embedded in the land, imagining new ways of sharing that knowledge and transmitting that knowledge through, for instance, the creation of comic books, in this case in Balinese, that are distributed online. And finally, thinking about the question of data sovereignty, the creation of traditional knowledge labels that could then use to track how that information circulates. So this is all on my part. Thank you for your attention. If you ever have a comment, have a criticism, some feedback, reach out, and I will be happy to listen to you and learn. Thank you so much.
Many thanks, Henner. And again, that was a really quick taste of the resource. It's a 180-page document, but also we're exploring ways, how do we get this into the hands of the community so that they could reflect on it and adapt it to their own local context. We're running a number of workshops, both virtually but also in person. And even the last few days, we've been exploring how we can continue to make this project evolve. We've been talking with many, for example, the Wikimedia communities, to offer these workshops in conjunction with local groups. And so we're really excited about the future of this. And so to close out this session, we want to create a space where activists can share their thoughts in their own language. And so I'd like to invite Amrit, Abhi, Janak, Sanjeeb. They're going to be part of the first group, and they'll be speaking their first intervention in their language, and we'll have the translation behind them. Abhi, Janak. It should be in order. Then you switch off.
Hello everyone, my name is Amrit Sufi, and here I'm representing my mother tongue, Angika. So what is the primary motivation behind bringing my language online? ते जे हमरो पहला मोटिवेशन ने ते जे हमें काहे काम करे छिए यह ली छे ताकि जे अंगिका बोले वाला लोग छे वो अपना बारे में जानकारी लेके आवे ऑनलाइन, न कि दोसर लोगे चाहे मीडिया चाहे फिल्म जे गलत जानकारी ऊ न रहे जे अंगिका के लोगे छे ऊ अपना बारे में बोले पारे। आरो ई किरंग होते जे अंगिका के जानकारी छे जे ओकरा ज्ञान छे जे संस्कृति छे ओकरा हमने डिजिटाइज करिए ऑनलाइन लेके आइए ऊ इंटरनेट पर अवेलेबल रहे। आरो ई आशा छे कि ई करला से जे ई भाषा छे ऊ आरो पनपते आरो बढ़ते भविष्य में आरो जे नवो बुतरू सनी छे उसनी खुशी से ई भाषा में बात करते आरो एकरा बारे में कोई हिंता महसूस नहीं करते।
Quintuplique la tecnología y las redes sociales so upel nukulil meyah kanan ek meyahtik tu más malo bikupastal. Vejes y chilieten tu nupeka utialtene le activismo digitalo Kutsaton uchunul yokiluk ahol talt am. Tumenyok sal taktush kuk uchul internete helupah taleknaxil videos yetenulak tipo publicaciones. Utialek uchul yetel upahtalu muk ansik ek masa walt ano. Teyo salo tinkaso ye mayat am.
नमस्ते मेरो उत्प्रेरणा के छ भने भाषा मरे सम्पदा मरन्छ रे तै सम्पदा भित्री भाषा साहित्य संस्कृति सभ्यता सबै पड्डान भाषा संस्कृतिको वाहनलाई हो भाषा हराए पाछा भाषालाई पुनर्जीवित अद् बहुत ही असहजी हुन्छ देवराज शर्मा भन्नान सिक्द संसार की भाषा आफनी उन्नति अद्दु हो विशुद्ध इजु की भाषा डुब्द बुड्ड उजड्ड हो धन्यवाद
हम अब पुवरिया थारू में बोलबै तो हमरा सबके जना विकिपीडिया कही से कि 2.5 लाख मात्रे पुवरिया थारू बोले वाला छे लेकिन बहुत बोले वाला छे कि ऐसे बेसी बोले वाला छे लेकिन अब डेटा में नहीं आयल छे तो एहिमे से जे छै लबका लोग सब केना छै ओतेक लाखों लोग छै बोले वाला तो यो वेबसाइट में किछो नहीं छै कि कोनो डिजिटल माध्यम नहीं छै जैसे जे कि वेबसाइट में लोग देख सकै छै कि जे इहो भाषा छै कहि के तो आ लबको धिया पुता सब छै जना की करै छै तो धिया पुता एकदमै अपन भाषा नहीं बोले छै कि अंग्रेजी बोले छै कि नेपाली बोले छै अपन भाषा बोले ओकरो के कनिकरा नहीं निक लागे छै तो तही द्वारा ये की छै कि लबका धिया पुता सबके लागि अब नया भाषा बोले के लागि ओकरो के नया चीज सब चाहिए इंटरनेट में रहते डिजिटल स्पेस में किछो रहते तब ने उ सब देखते तो कहते जे ए अपनो भाषा निक छै हमरा अपन भाषा बोले के चाहिए कहि के ओकरो के अथी हेते जे हाँ अपन भाषा बोलबै तो बढ़िया हेते अपन भाषा दोसर भाषा से कनिक निक छै या बहुत शब्द एहन छै जे दोसर भाषा में नहीं छै जे हमर भाषा में छै तो तही दुआरे ओकरो सबके अपन भाषा के लागि कथी कहै छै जे ई बहुत बड़का काम छै बहुत लोग चाहिए हमी असगरे नहीं कर सकबै लेकिन तैयो कहै छी कि जे हम कथी ले ई काम कर रहल छियै या हमरा कथी छै जे कथी होइ छै जे हमरा कथी ले ई काम कर रहल छियै तो लबका धिया पुता के ई भाषा के प्रवर्धन करे के लागि हस धन्यवाद
Then we have one more person I forgot to bring up, Sadiq, to answer the same question about what motivates you to promote your language in digital spaces.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sadiq Shahadu from Ghana. My language is Dagbani. And I will be sharing about my aspiration for Dagbani in my native language, which is Dagbani. Mali Tahama Zanchang Dagbanle Polo ni Dinyanchaka Dagbanle Wulega Pohanzo Zasa Ka Niri Pohanzo Koneto Zan Dagbale Tumtuma Bal Kamso the Bahad Jandi computer the Pahe Pohanzo Nolam Sum ne computer Yashia Zorum Buhanda Bala Be the Malish Bala Tum the Tuma Malniani Dagbanle Tizan Tiza Zaanan Dagban Dagbalin Yaladin and Chans Osa ka applications kama Google mane chat GPT ka na to use Dagbalin Tumtuma Balaz Okamza Mpayapam.
Thank you so much. Let's give a round of applause for this first group. The next question will be, what are your aspirations for the future of your language? I'd like to invite Bikram, Umasoye, Marco, Zubair, Bali, and Sia. Please come up. Is Bikram here? Bikram, please go ahead.
Hello everyone. So this is Bikram. Basically, I'll be talking about Rana Tharu language. It is spoken only in two far west southern plains of Nepal. That's Kailali and Kanchanpur and the adjoining Indian border. So my aspirations for the future of my mother language, Rana Tharu. So I start like this. So Ram Ram सबके. राना थारू भाषा पहचान और संस्कृति से जुड़ी है. संस्कृति गतिशील है. गतिशील के मारे परिवर्तन होता जाता है और दूसरे समुदाय के प्रभाव से बहुत परिवर्तन ही गए हैं, पर भाषा थोड़ी स्थिर है. भाषा में हमें एक अवसर है जाको हमें डिजिटल अभिलेख कर पाए हैं, तो हमारे आने वाले पीढ़ी और इतिहास से जोड़ सकता है, जाको बहुत भारी महत्व है. दूसरी बात, राणा भाषा और संस्कृति संबंधी स्त्रीय अभिलेख शाब्दिक अर्थ के हिसाब से और भाषा से कितो नज़दीक है, वाको सामीप्य कितो है, वह पता लगान को सहयोग करेगो और जा काम में सहयोग करेगा कि अब हमारे एक चीज़ शुरू ही गया है, मातृभाषा में आधारित बहुभाषिक शिक्षा, मदर टंग बेस्ड मल्टीलिंगुअल एजुकेशन, जहाँ बहुत ज़रूरी है, पर जाको सामग्री और तालीम उलीम सब ख़त्म हो जा रहे हैं. तई मारे जाके अगू बढ़ाता ही हमें पालिका से लेके प्रदेश सरकार भाषा आयोग को सहयोग चाहेगो और हमरो प्रदेश में और पालिका में कमती में सरकारी भाषा को कामकाजी भाषा को फिर जाको होएगो तो भाषा जगेड़ना होएगो और इतिहास और हमरे जो बच्चा पच्चू आएंगे वे पढ़ सकता है, जान सकता है. जय एक माध्यम है, जय सब तुमसे अनुरोध है. राम राम.
In the next few minutes, I'll be sharing my aspirations for my language. Ekpe is spoken in southern Nigeria. Modu goje po mini emine ekpe libebeladi, opobe onekpe ubababa, libebeladi, libebelibakpa. Modu goje de ho po mini emine ekpe ubabe onekpe abali social media, pole have poli social media. Lada dinze tobe udelibe onekpe ide mekani.
Dios me pada ananyihomada Marco Antonio Martínez Tsenche hematsenze navim kashna tsinayok kesh kuhem I homa io hemi kukondi mada kashna tsivehem atsevem yakni havat tietzenga hutsatse yam atsovum tietzen vinzotsen bayo I vingopke atse kyakotzet I ayok vinitnum tsiveyoyat kuive dihmet yak mak permet yak mah permet vinzoto kadok shahon dinyas tok shahon dikotsta donc dito yo ida at vingopce va tsmayo iba at kiyakish pa kiyak payo iba at si ayok kityun homa hay yespuk homa hay naksh yak tsoya homa hay naksh akutoh kendi payo iba nitnem yak payo it at stave tyun uktave miak pukha earth han ayo kamda.
Is Zubair here? Zubair? We could skip to the next one, please. Bali, please.
Hello, everyone. I come from Bunun community in Taiwan. And the opening myself, we have seen the song because in my indigenous language, it's not the sentence, not the word, it's the song, it's the phone. So I just quickly is. Anado, anado, anado. The meaning is I come from Taiwan, I come from Taiwan's mountain. So I use my language to tell my indigenous language the big pictures. Kudan isahan Taiwan Yunzumin tu Galingat, ina nakatung tu tan sing, sindadudan tu ismadoying, makinungang kingmun, matungat amin tu Taiwan Yunzumin tu mindadadan tu badadab, anak nak sing tu sandeng sing, sinuining inan tu akminingan, patam mangkunun san. Vai tu is nakudan sing, nakadan kudakuda tu is magyu. Mapang tu sak dakatu inhan inan. I at DF to kuda uninang. Thank you everyone.
Sanbonani, gama lami nguSiya Masuku, ngiphuma eGoli eNingizimu Afrika, ngikhuluma isiZulu, ngimele abantu bamaZulu. Hello everyone, my name is Siya Masuku. I'm from Johannesburg, South Africa. I speak isiZulu. I represent the Zulu people. Ikusasa lesiZulu kumele ligcizelele ukulondoloza nokuvuselela ulimi kanye nokuxhasa abantu. Njengomenzi wamanoveli wemifanekiso osebenza ngesiZulu, ngifisa ukuzuza okulandelayo. Ukushicelela izindaba ezimnandi ngezincwadi kanye namafilimu, ukukhuthaza amaZulu ukuthi babe nobunikazi emsebenzini wabo wokuvuselela ulimi lwabo. Ukusebenzisana nemiphakathi yezilimi zomdabu ukuze kwakhiwe izinhlelo nezinsiza zokufundisa ngolimi lwebele, futhi ucwaningo kanye nezimfundo zihambe phambili. Ngiyabonga. Thank you.
Many thanks. Thanks for your reflections. The next group would be Sasil, Subha, and Tochi. Responding to the question, what message would you share with others starting out using digital tools for their language?
Chil tush yabach palo tanu pek yabach dios botik. Thank you. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Subhashish. I speak the Balusaria dialect of the Odia language from Eastern India. आपनको भाषार डिजिटल सज व्यवहार करिवार नागी सोशल मीडिया रु आरंभ करि परिबे केने कि ताकू व्यवहार करी गोटे समाजर प्राय समस्त सांगर जोड़िवा सहज खास करके टुका छुआ सांगर भाषा शिक्षा छवि कि भिडियो रक शिक्षण समुद्र कटेब.
Ndewonu, aham Tochi, Esim, Nigeria. I just said, hello everyone, my name is Tochi and I'm from Nigeria. I'm nibido iji teknozu digital were kwalita asụsụ nwere ike bịago ọjọọ. Mana ụjọ atụla gị, were ya nwayọ nwayọ. Malite site n'ịhọrọ ngwaọrụ ga-emezu ebumnuche gị. Ị chọrọ ịkụzi ihe ka ọwụ na ọwụ mmụta ka ị chọrọ ime ma ọ bụkwanụ ichekwa asụsụ gị. Ọ dị mma site n'ebe ahụ. Nyochakwa ngwa ahụ ị chọrọ iji. Ọwa akwụkwọ ọkọwa okwu dị n'ịntanetị ma ọ bụkwanụ ihe ndị ọzọ ahaziri maka mkpa gị, mara ebe ị chọrọ ibido. Chee echiche maka ịnọ ogologo oge. Emela ihe ga-emenụ o ruo echi ya wụrụ na ị gaghị anọzi ya ọzọ. Nwee atụla egwu ịnwale ihe ọhụrụ ma mụtakwa site na nnwale na ngahie gị. Mana nke kachasị mkpa bụ metuo obi ma nwee obi ụtọ n'usoro ahụ. Daalụnụ.
Many thanks. And for our last group, invite Lorenzo, Selfa, and Isela to go. Responding to the prompt, what strategies or approaches have been successful in your digital work? So Lorenzo, Selfa, and Isela. Lorenzo, for you. Primero, sí.
Le bishmiyatene le tejejilas proyectos o ya está ni le kibetik o el tia ukuyala audiovisualo y tentulaka le bish forma lut an le telemacho temaya kahobo Tulak le miyaha kubet buwa le contigo digital, en kunaksa ichiten le plataformas kukabat.
Toka y se la shospa ni pantia ompa malakatetikpak. One of the things that I have been doing recently also to revitalize my language is to bring back an ancient knowledge and philosophy from my language. So I'm going to sing a song as well for you in Nahuatl language. Tlasoin tlatla, tlatla no tlawili, inene miatzintli, yenquiquintica, tlanesilleyecat, patlanishtica, tonan cincuatlique, shaneque gualmica, y pante mashkali, y pante mashkali. Tlasocamatimiac.
Thanks so much for coming to the session. That's the wrap for the session. It's really important to provide an opportunity for speakers to speak in their language, and that's why we provide the translation behind it, because even though it may be a small paragraph, but it is very powerful, and it sends a message that all languages are equal, even though in reality that may not be the case, but we do so.
There's, again, community defense and mitigation mechanism, case study on organizational policies, that is on Senate room, and this one is Regal A, but in Regal B, that side, we have So You Want to Make Multilingual Media, lessons from the field, and then in this room, Regal room, Ballroom A, we have the power of narratives, how data governance is framed and discussed, and how it affects you. So thank you. So see you all in half an hour. Thank you.